I want to start off by sharing a story. It's about a couple of young men from an expensive university having cappuccino at a local cafeteria. Robert was showing off to his friend Charles a diamond ring he bought for his girlfriend's birthday. Robert said, "Charles, would you care to look at this ring and tell me what you think of it? I'm going to give it to Louise on her birthday." Charles took the ring, observed it, and said, "This looks expensive, Bobby, and I'm sure Louise would be very happy to have it. But I thought she wanted a Range Rover for her birthday." Robert took the ring and replied, "I know, but I can't get a fake Range Rover." Well, I bet you the lady won't be very happy when she found out the truth. But this is the key. If you were a businessman and you do that, you will regret it, and you will not forget it the day when you close your doors. I asked an established Chinese business friend several years back why and how you start a business. And he said to me, "If you see the light at the end of the tunnel started," I said to myself, "How do I even recognize that light?" Yeah? We won't. I certainly didn't. And what is so scary that I often hear from my Chinese friends was that they say, and I have individuals who are big business people today, they said they went through a bankruptcy. Now that is scary. No, I don't want to go through that. And it is no wonder that there's so many of my friends who actually leave it to their partners to run the business for them instead of them running it themselves, because it's that part that is so scary. But my point is that if we want to become a full-fledged businessman, we must do it ourselves. We must experience it. So what are the essentials? What are so important to get a business going? I have served many levels, and I'm sure many of you would know that, while working in the government. And amongst those that I answered to while serving in the government was one who always asked me a very tough question. Inevitably, he would say, "What is it you want to do?" And that simple question will be followed by another one. "Why do you want to do it?" And that was real. I can never get through to the rest of my presentation to him if I cannot answer these two questions. But when you get to practice this so many times, you get used to the thinking process, which I practice now. I had one very profound experience while working in the government. A bit of correction just now. I was never ambassador to the US. I was ambassador to the United Nations, which is a bit different. The UN is in New York. The US capital is in Washington, D.C. So I was ambassador to the UN. Again, another correction, between 1998 and the year 2000. And that task, I never forget, was to renovate 2 lots of a building that we bought for our office to the UN. And I can tell you now, it was an experience I never want to repeat. Unlike building an office in Brunei, we have no control over the contractor, different sets of laws, rules covering building permits, workers' rights, and the rest of it. And what I can share with you was that I had many Salat Hajat before the building was completed. I wouldn't go into detail, but if there was time later, maybe I would. Now, in 2003, when I left the Prime Minister's office and joined the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports, my wife said to me, "I want to open a restaurant." And I can tell you who are still singles here, don't argue with your wife. You won't win. A lady told me when I was in Australia in 1984, and she said to me, don't ever argue with a woman. Same answer, you will never win. So, I was to open a restaurant. I was to guarantee that restaurant, right? What does that mean? Back to the question when I was serving in the government. What is it you want to do? Why do you want to do it? So I had to be clear. I hope I'm not too slow. I had to be clear what we were getting ourselves into, because a restaurant, you can't put in 50,000, you can't put in 100,000, you know. To me, we're talking about a substantial amount of money. Now, this applies to any kind of business. You need to ask the same question. What is it you want to do? Be it trading, be it production, or be it services. I started a chili farm in my kampong in 2013 with the intention of helping low-income earners and those who were jobless. For 18 months, our plants and chili fruits died. We failed, and many abandoned the project. Now, this year, we are experiencing success. I applied the same focus during my planning and my strategizing. This is very important. Back again to build a restaurant. What does that mean? I had to quickly imagine what kind of restaurant that my wife actually wanted. What does she have to start a restaurant? That's an important part. If you wanted to do a business, what do you have? What do you have? You can't jump into something that you know zero about. You got to ask yourself, what is it that you have? Well, fortunately, my wife is a good cook. A very talented cook with no qualification. An example was that the rabus ikan, I'm sure we're all familiar, rabus ikan that my mother loved to cook. She turned it into clear tom yum soup in our restaurant, and we still serve it. That's an asset. But what else? Why should one invest a few 100,000 into a restaurant without being clear whether it can make money or not? It's scary, to say the least. My lecturer at John Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies at Washington, D.C. made us think very clearly, why should one invest? This was a class of politics of international investment. It was one of the best classes I attended. It was to determine whether a company should invest in a country. Now, I made that into a much smaller scale. Why should one invest in a restaurant? What are the assets? Okay, I agreed, as I said earlier, that my wife is a good cook, but what else? We can't compete against iLotus. We can't compete against Sri Kandi. They have been there for donkey's years. Or even lemongrass, a Thai restaurant. Okay, and why? But open a restaurant I must, if I don't want to lose any sleep. You understand? So I asked myself, why would people want to come to our restaurant? There's so many other restaurants. So we have to target a certain sector of our population that would be willing to eat at our restaurant, willing to pay the price that we will charge, because my wife's food is not cheap. I know that. So, stay focused and answer who we expect to buy our goods and services. Whatever. You want to open a boutique, you have to answer that question. Who's going to buy the clothes at your boutique? whatever you want to sell, whatever services that you have, you got to answer the question. At this point, I want to share with you a story of Zhu Aihua. That one, yeah. One of the books I like reading. Okay, I got the right pages. Zhu Aihua was one of the best middle school students in her village in the Shaoxing region of Zhejiang province in China. And this was 1982. Can you hear me? Her parents were peasants, and like almost everyone else had very little cash. But she was so bright, she got sent to a fashion school in 1982. Why would somebody go to a fashion school when every Chinese was wearing Mao Zedong's suit, right? Well, they expected her to be a leader. But being a lady, being a girl at that time, not even 20, she couldn't even get a job when she qualified. But what did she do? She decided that she would do something. But her parents were too poor to help. So she borrowed a megaphone and went around the village offering to teach young women how to make garments for a fee of 15 yuan, which is $13 equivalent. So she recruited 100 students, and with the money that she made, she bought a second-hand sewing machine and some surplus fabric from the local state-owned factories and started teaching. At the end of her course, she kept her 8 best students and launched a business. The women would carry every morning with a sewing machine on their backs. They each got their parents to buy them one, and then start cutting and sewing. They made uniforms for the local factory workers. At first, they worked at Zhu Aihua's home, but as the business expanded, they rented a bigger place. Now, this is something you must remember. By 1991, 10 years later, she had saved so much from the profits of her business that she could afford to buy 60 automatic sewing machines for 54,000 yuan. Now today, she is not only an established entrepreneur, her export contracts arrive at Macy's, Benetton, JCPenney, Fifth Avenue shops. How did she get there? Now this is my other point. We know our target. We stay focused. We stay very, very focused. Talking about the restaurant that I had to guarantee that we had to open. I want to share with you another story, real. This was when I was 12 years old, and it made a profound impact on me as a person. I went to St. Andrew's School. I was 12. We had to walk. On my way back to my kampong in Lumapas, which was across the river, it still is across the river, and it's a tough journey. I would buy a thermos bottle of ice cream that cost me $1.50. Money I borrowed from my mother. With that would come 5 cents cup and 10 cents cup. And that $1.50 ice cream, I make another $1.50, becomes $3. Okay, that's normal. But one day, the ice cream maker said to me, sorry, we only get 5 cents cup. We don't have 10 cents cup. How am I going to make money with just 5 cents cup? So I decided I would manipulate, no, it's a bad word. I tell stories. I tell stories to my young customers who went to grammar school in the afternoon. I said I only had 5 cents cup. But if you don't mind, I'm going to fill it up so full it's going to drip on the side. And I did. But I tripled the revenue. From $3, it becomes $4.50. Packaging. People tell us, packaging, you know, you package it well, people will buy. I was 12, I realized I was packaging the ice cream. But how do you package a restaurant? Food must be good, okay, guaranteed. I hope you agree. Service must be good. Ambience must be good. Well, I'm not embarrassed to tell you that I interviewed our staff. We went to the Philippines. Every one of them, I tell them, you got to be at least 5'3", weight less than 60 kilo. No, but it's reality, you know. It's reality. You got to wear you got to wear 2-inch shoes. Why 2-inch shoes? Because if you wear with flats, your back will be bent. But if you wear 2-inch heels, your back will be straight. And the customer feels good with a waitress who is proud to serve them. Agreed? Yes. That's the impact. If you don't wear makeup, sorry, help the kitchen wash the dishes. What I'm saying is that you must deal with the running of your business. Seriously. If you leave it to someone else, no. You learn from running the business. Yesterday evening, a diplomat friend, he had dinner and he texted me. He said, food's good, tastes good, service was good. But my comment was that the soup, he said, should be warmer. I had another customer. This was in Sarasa, not in my other branches, Sarasa branch. There was another Western customer who said to me the same thing, that the soup was a bit cold. I ordered steamed fish, and it didn't taste the same as our other restaurants. And you know why? Lucky I remember my physics class when I was in Form 4 and Form 5. We were using stainless steel bowl to serve the food instead of the regular ceramic bowls. You know the difference it made. The loss of heat within just a few minutes. Being there, dealing with the restaurant, I understand. So my wife and I agreed last night, from today, no more stainless steel bowls, just ceramic bowls. It's that experience and it's that knowledge that can change whether you're selling or whether you're not selling. Now, it is vital to run the business ourselves. Many a time, I want to share this with you. This is interesting. Many a time when I chair the committee on tender in the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports, a tenderer will come in and say, when I ask them a question, how are you going to do the business? How are you going to do the service? And they will come to me and say, wait, let me get my supervisor. Because they don't know the job. They don't run it themselves. Somebody else was running the job for them. It's a pity. A couple of days ago, at the veranda of our Sarasa restaurant, a friend called me, 2 of them, elderly men. I thought they were older than me. I still believe so. And he said to me, can you tell us why? I've got so many businesses, but up to this day, it still stays like that. And I said to him, you answered already your problem. You got too many businesses and you couldn't focus on a single one. That was his problem. And that's faced by many of us now. When you grow big, you can employ people to help you run the business, but not when you are starting it. We are running for 10 years, still, you know, it's not good enough. I was telling friends, my wife and I, we don't get to sleep until after midnight, every night, because we got to get reports from all our branches sales today, how many people, the kind of food consumed. You know why? Because the next day, my wife is the cook, she knows what food has been consumed, how much to buy, how much meat, how many kilo chicken, what kind of vegetables and all that. She does that. And of course, I have to accompany her until, you know, everything is done at night. Detailed planning, staying focused, it contributes to sustainability of the business. When you plan, you see ahead. Seriously. The clear view ahead gives you the advantage to steer in the right direction. If there is time, I could come back to that. How do you deal with the changes? You think ahead is going to be like this, but things always change. How do you deal with the changes? Robert Rubin, in his book, let me show off that book. This one. He was Secretary of State. He was with Citibank. You know, I urge our young friends, please look into this book. He said, the only thing that is certain in this world is uncertainty. And he has his thinking process. When I read that book, it resonates. It really resonates. Because people said to me, how do you deal with the differences and changes in time? With the new social media and the rest of it, the world becomes smaller. How do you deal with that? Robert Rubin shares what he calls his probabilistic approach, the psychology of the market, how government functions in relation to the economy. And this is very, very important. But how do we get to see a clear view? Now, Peter Schwartz, in his book, another one that has a tremendous influence on my thoughts. This one, I urge everyone, try to read this. I'm not selling on his behalf, but seriously, his thoughts are really, really effective. In The Art of the Long View, which is planning for the future in an uncertain world, he talks about the driving forces, the plot lines, the probabilities, as mentioned. You know, I agreed to rebuild the old windsurfing house at Sarasa Beach. Some of you would be familiar with that. I agreed in the year 2014, beginning of the year, that was January. By August, we read in the newspaper fall in our oil production. And this year, we know very well, you know, the huge drop in the oil prices. What does that mean? What does that mean to the market? I said to myself, I said to my wife, oh, I wish I knew earlier, so I didn't have to embark on building that new building, because it wasn't cheap for me. For big tauques, it's okay, but for me, no. It was a huge investment. Some of you have been to our Anjung Layar Luncur Sarasa would notice that. It was a passionate commitment on my part. I had to look at all the forces at work, but I know one thing for sure. One thing for sure, people would save from buying a new, I wouldn't say iPhone, because you would all buy iPhones anyway. But people would refrain themselves from buying a new car, new TV, save the money. But there's one thing that people will not refrain themselves from: food. People will eat. People will eat. So to combat the changes in time, I had to make sure that even the dresses of our waitresses would be different. And I told my wife I wanted it to look like that. And we worked together what kind of colors, you know, what they were to be wearing, even as a tudong, as a headdress. Since I have very few minutes left, I want to share some of my observations. As a businessman now, and even before, I hear a lot of us, businessmen, looking for excuses, expressing their wishes that the government would do this, that the government should do that. But what I want to tell you is that we are very fortunate. We are very fortunate. We have got a very good education system, very effective. We have got a very good health system, health services. Those are the basics. If we want to do business, we got to have good education, we have to have good health, and we have all those. In addition, there are so many government policies that are in support of what we want to do. It's just us, you. Make use of those policies. Make use of what the government wants to do, want us to do. There are so many. 10 years in business, I look into the opportunities in Brunei. There are plenty. You know the farm I'm doing in my kampong since 2013? The government has been helping me around 65,000 Brunei dollars. Grant, we don't have to pay back. That's the policy. Will the bank give you that? You know the answer. Will anybody give you that? You know the answer too. The government gives us all the support. So, other than those focused, detailed approach that you must practice in whatever business that you want to do, look into what the government is providing. Make use of it, because there's so many things that you can do. And my best wishes to you all in whatever business that you want to do. Thank you very much.